The Big Book thought experiment, conceived by the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein in his 1929 lecture on ethics, stands as a powerful and concise exploration of the fundamental distinction between facts and absolute value. This imaginative scenario is deployed to argue that ethical statements, in their most profound sense, are not propositions about the world, and thus cannot be included in any purely factual description of reality. To set the stage for this experiment, Wittgenstein asks us to imagine an individual endowed with perfect omniscience. This hypothetical person knows every single fact that has ever occurred or will occur in the universe. Crucially, they know not only all the physical movements, every falling leaf, every shifting molecule, every human action, but also all the psychological states, including every fleeting thought, motive, and emotion experienced by every sentient being throughout history. This omniscient being, having amassed this colossal body of data, then records it all in a single volume, the titular Big Book. This book, by definition, contains the entire, complete, and exhaustive description of the world. The philosophical crux of the experiment lies in the subsequent question. Would this Big Book, which contains an infinite number of factual descriptions, also contain any statements of absolute value? In other words, if the book detailed a heroic act of sacrifice, would it also contain the judgment, "This act is absolutely good"? If it described a heinous crime, would it include the statement, "This action is intrinsically evil"? Wittgenstein's resolute answer is negative. The Big Book can record all the facts surrounding a murder, the killer's motive, the victim's demise, the subsequent grief, but it cannot, by virtue of its factual nature, contain the necessary ethical judgment that the act is morally wrong. The Big Book can describe what is the case, but it remains fundamentally silent on what ought to be the case. This outcome reinforces the famous philosophical gulf between the descriptive and the normative. The primary conclusion of the Big Book thought experiment is that ethics is transcendental. It is a dimension of experience that lies outside the world of observable, empirical facts. Because absolute value cannot be perceived, measured, or logically derived from any arrangement of physical or psychological data, it cannot be captured by the language used to describe facts. For Wittgenstein, the value we ascribe to actions is not a fact in the world. It is an attitude or judgment that we bring to the world, a judgment that ultimately transcends it and remains inexpressible through the propositions of natural science. The Big Book, therefore, serves as a boundary marker, illustrating the limits of factual language in the face of absolute moral meaning.